Hey coach, it's Morgan. I have just created an Excel document with your team's data from this past year, and I just wanted to run you through the Excel sheet so that you were able to interpret the information to best coach your players based on their needs. So to start off, we can look at the player profile, which shows you which athletes you're looking at. The name of the player can be adjusted under the filter column on the very left over here. And underneath name, you can see the name of an athlete come up, and a drop down menu will appear if you click right on this arrow. And you can scroll down and choose any athlete from your entire team. So let's just choose an athlete, maybe Donald Duck, and all of Donald Duck's information will pop up on under the yellow highlighted player profile section. So in this gold player profile highlighted box, you can see the name of the athlete that you have chosen from the filter come at the top. His or her head sheet will pop up on the right in this highlighted green box. And you can see the information for this athlete, his position, hometown, height, weight, injury status, and training status will also be in this box. Right now, there's nothing in the injury status or training status because we don't have a date entered in. So to choose a date that you want to look at for this athlete, you'll go back to the filter section on the very left, and you'll see the word date, and underneath there's a green highlighted box, and you can enter in a date to look at. So let's just say we put in October 18th, 2017, click enter, and you can see that the box changes. So for injury status, a green check mark will show that the athlete was healthy and not injured. A yellow exclamation point will show that the athlete had a minor injury, where a red X will show that the athlete was injured. Directly below this information will show participation in training for that same date. A green check mark shows the athlete participated in training that day, while a red X shows that the athlete did not participate in training on that date. So on this date, October 18th, 2017, Donald Duck, who's our athlete, was healthy because he has a green check mark next to injury status, and he participated in training. But if we want to see a different date, let's say October 20th, 2017, the injury status changed because Donald Duck had a minor injury, so that's the yellow exclamation point. And maybe if we can find one where he was fully injured, November 5th, 2017. He was injured, so he has a red X next to injury status, and he did not participate in training, so that's the second red X represents right there. The next important information to understand are the gauges, which are located to the right of the player profile box right here. They have a highlighted dark green title. And the first gauge we're going to look at is the readiness gauge. The readiness gauge is represented by the readiness score, which is taken from each of the 5 categories of data collected. This includes muscle soreness, energy, stress, sleep quality, and confidence. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But this is just on a daily basis, and it's a readiness score out of a possible 50 points. So a higher score equals the athlete is more ready to perform, whereas a lower score means that he's less ready for performance that day. So we're still on Donald Duck, 11.5. Maybe if we want to just see a different athlete come up, we can click on, let's just do Cookie Monster. And you'll see that his profile changed, so we know that we're looking at the right athlete. And the date is November 5th, 2017, which is showed on the bottom of this readiness gauge right here. And you can see that it is in the red-orange section, and on the bottom it will say a number, which is right now 21% of max. And basically you can just use this as a quick glance to see how ready your athlete is to perform that day. So this wasn't a very good day for Cookie Monster, but if we want to see a date that maybe he was feeling a little bit better, we can change it. Let's do November 10th, 2017. Yeah, so just 5 days later, he was feeling a lot better, and his readiness gauge went up to 98% of max, which is all the way in this green section over here. So that's a good day for him. The second gauge that we see is on the right of readiness, entitled SRPE gauge. This stands for session rate of perceived exertion. At first glance, you can notice that the colors are switched on this gauge compared to the readiness gauge. It shows green all the way to the left and red all the way to the right. The SRPE shows how hard the session was for that day based on exertion level, which is out of 10, and duration. A higher SRPE level will mean it was a very hard workout, which will be all the way on the right, and a low level will mean it was little to no effort for that day. We're still on November 10th, 2017 for Cookie Monster, and this shows that 64% of his max, which was a pretty decent workout for this day. It wasn't too terrible, but it's closer to the orange. If you want to choose a different date, maybe we change it to October 28th, 2017, enter, and you can see that this workout was very easy for him. It was only 5% of his max effort. So those are the gauges and the performance profiles. The next box that we have is this black and gray box in the middle here. As a coach, you want to know how your team is feeling overall on a given date in order to make any adjustments that you may need. So this chart shows the sum and average of the number of healthy athletes, the number of athletes that were able to participate, their stress level, sleep quality, energy, muscle soreness, confidence, and RPE. So if we want to see, right now we're on October 18th, 2017, you can see the sum of all the athletes. The injury, if you were healthy that day, you entered in a 1 in our data. So a lower number, 17 or 18, would mean that all your athletes were healthy. Whereas if you had the highest number possible, would be 54 if every single athlete was injured that day. So on October 18th, we had only one injury, it looks like, which represented in our participation. Makes sense because 17 out of 18 athletes participated. The average stress for this day for the whole team was 8.4 out of 10. An 8.4 shows that the team was not very stressed. The lower number, maybe like a 1 or 2, would be that the team was very stressed out that day. So this is just helpful overall. You can see if the team was stressed on a particular day, if they had bad sleep or energy, if it was like a really hard day, like a 9 out of 10, then you can just get a gauge on that and adjust any dates that may have been easier or harder based on how your team performed. A takeaway that you could have from this date, October 18th, would be that it was a good day for participation and performance, and you could maybe push your athletes a little bit harder because they were all feeling pretty good. If you want to see a different date, let's enter in December 6th. And you can see the numbers change, and maybe this date it's probably close to their final exam dates. You can see there's a few more injuries that day. Our numbers like 23 out of 54. We had good participation, 16 out of 18, but you can see the stress level was a lot higher, 2.8 out of 10. The sleep quality is pretty bad, which makes sense around finals that they're stressed, they're not sleeping well, their energy is low. Maybe they're sore because they've been max testing at the end of the semester. So maybe this is a good time for you to realize that your team's pretty stressed out, having some tough times with finals, and you can lay off a little bit on practice or performance or training or whatnot to give them a little bit of a break. So the next box we're going to look at is the readiness box, which is listed right here. And I changed the athlete. We're looking at Scooby-Doo. Right now it's on October 20th, 2017. And as I mentioned before, from the readiness gauge, you can see how the readiness score was calculated. It adds up muscle soreness, energy, stress, sleep quality, and confidence to get an average readiness score. So this value is Scooby-Doo's value on that date. And you can see the comparison. Right now it's on team but you can compare Scooby-Doo to himself, to the team, or to a position. Maybe we want to change it to self, and we want to compare it in this filter past X days. Maybe we want to see over the past week how he's been doing. And you can see that on this date, he was having a really rough time. Normally, his readiness score is 22. And so over here on the right, you can see these red bars are pretty large, which shows that he's doing worse than he normally is on this date. And you can change that to compared with the team. You can change it to 30 days, and you can see the bars will adjust. Maybe we want to see a time Scooby was doing well. You can change it to the 24th of November. Yeah, and you can see these bars all change. So no, this month was pretty good for him, and this date particularly, he was doing way better than he normally does. All the bars are green, and they're pretty big going to the right. So that's what this box represents right here. The next box we're going to look at is training load, directly below readiness. And this data shows the RPE, duration, and the average of both of those. The duration will stay the same because the duration was the same for the athlete on this date. But this could change if we were doing maybe different positions for doing different workouts maybe. The RPE was individualized for each athlete based on their exertion level. So you can see that Scooby-Doo thought that this training day was pretty hard. And if you want to compare this to the position, let's change this to position. The comparison is 4.4. So Scooby-Doo thought that this workout was pretty hard, and his position thought it wasn't that hard. So maybe Scooby was having a rough day with all of this. So you can see that comparison there. So what we're going to look at next is this readiness graph, which is right here. You can see that it says muscle soreness over time graph, and that's based on the readiness picker that I have on the filter tab on the left. I changed the date. Right now we're looking at December 6, 2017. And it will calculate every date from that, which is listed right here, December 6th, all the way back to 14 dates. So you can choose the category you want to see on the left over here. Right now it's muscle soreness, but you can change it to any of these. You can see energy for that day, or stress, or whatever category you want. So the yellow line represents the rolling average of the team for that date. So you can change the number of days you want to see the average for. If nothing's in the box, the line will follow the bar graph. So if I just clicked right here and deleted it, it's just going to follow what the date was. But if I want to see for the past week averaged, it will show that comparison. So the next thing I want to look at are performance graphs and data. So we're looking at a new athlete, Superman. I changed the date to November 24th. So I'm going to scroll back down, and we have 4 measurements, each of the test dates that we took. So trap bar deadlift, bench press, jump height, and body fat. The green bar on the left over here shows the latest performance date. So maybe finals week, he wasn't doing too well because he was a lot lower as compared to the gold bar on the right, which is his best performance, which for Superman was November 24th. The last chart is right now it's body fat, and this is a line graph showing to date how he's done over time. So you can see the past 4 dates that we have recorded, and you can adjust this under the filter tab. Right now it's on body fat. You can change this. So if we look at trap bar deadlift, maybe he had a pretty good progression compared to his last day, which he just didn't test very well. And this just helps you see how he progressed over time. Maybe a new athlete, Curious George, maybe. You can just see the difference, like how he's going up and down a little bit more, which is not really what you want for these graphs. But I hope that you enjoyed this Excel sheet. Thanks for looking at this with me, and good luck with the rest of your season.